Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday and welcome to Goal Intentions. Oh my goodness, today is a treat for me personally, and I hope that it'll be a treat for everyone else out there. But just to touch on last week, we had a candid discussion with my longtime friend, Aflon, and it was interesting how she was able to bring forth her issues with going through weight loss surgery and also the types of reactions that she's getting from people as a result of going through that transformation, parenting, transparency, allowing children to be who they are, present themselves and their true selves, however it is that they feel most comfortable. It was such a really refreshing conversation that it makes people understand that one, we are not on an island by ourselves. No man is an island, if you will, and we all have different things in our lives that can definitely be a testament to our strength, but also allow for others to feel that they are included. They are going through situations and they don't have to be alone with it. There's always someone who can call you, or you can call them and just air out. Girlfriends, guy friends, whomever you are, just create that kindred, that relationship, and just know that there are people out there with stories who are willing to share, and that if you are questioning something about yourself, please don't hesitate, because it might just be the most life transforming experience ever. And then, as we talked to Aflon last week, there was this whole sense of courage, right? And my next guest is one that speaks courage, fierceness, chic. I mean, and all these things are embedded in the way how she managed to produce her line of work. Her artistry is one that I've always admired. And while we are no close buddy friends, she is like my good friend in my head and has been my good friend for quite a long time. Everyone, I would like to welcome Natalie De Savannah to Goal Intentions. Miss
I'm like,
Lamming, how are you?
I'm like, woo, say that again. That's interesting. I'm good. I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning. Oh my goodness. So, like I said, I've always admired you and it's always from afar, but somehow I always do my best to support your business,
I
whatever
appreciate
it
that.
is, right?
Oh boy.
And it's like a long standing trail. Please don't look at it as stalker vibes. It's
That's
just
okay.
one that has deep sense of appreciation for someone who is tasteful and understands what people like and want to experience. And we're going to get a little bit more into that. But first, we met a long time ago. And you may not even remember.
Oh boy. Was I good? Was I nice? Was I what was I doing?
You were extremely focused on making sure that people were experiencing something that was life changing, and
Mm.
that you wanted to leave an impact, from what I remember. So it was at a restaurant in
Okay.
Flatbush near downtown Brooklyn,
Okay.
Sugar King to be specific.
Okay.
And you were, I think, managing or waiting. You were waiting us because it was dead that time. It was like earlier on, like you just probably the establishment had just opened up, and my husband and I walked in for dinner, and you were present, and you came to the table. You served us. We had the callaloo with macaroni and
Oh
macaroni
God.
pie.
You remember it like it was yesterday. I don't this has to be like 16 years ago?
It's like 16, 17
16
years ago.
years ago. Okay.
And that was when I truly got hooked to the sorrow martini.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember having to go back because of my experience with you. You were very intuitive, very understanding, making sure that we had a really good dining experience. And from there, I noticed that you started to do promotions. And whether or not it was your first time, your first set of gigs, but it was like my first experience and I was in awe.
Thank you.
Tell us about how you got started in the restaurant business and leading up to having to, promote parties and whatnot?
Um, so let's just say I never thought I would ever be in the restaurant industry. Never thought I would even waitress. I think when we grow up in the Caribbean, being a waitress or being in that industry is kind of looked down upon. At least brutally honest, I think when how I was brought up. So I never even thought I would be in that industry for that reason. And secondly, because I just think I would throw people plates down or something, right? But when you get to America and you have to find a way to survive and do what you got to do and pay the bills, I did end up in that industry. And to be truthfully honest, the money was good. The money was good. I did know I wanted to get into some type of customer service because, when you ask little girls what they want to be when they grow, I used to be like, I want to be a flight attendant. Because when I was younger, the flight attendants were pretty and, but really and truly, a flight attendant serves you. They make sure that you are good for the duration of your flight. So I guess indirectly, I guess the flight attendant way was the nice way of looking at it. But, so anyway, I ended up in that industry and I got stuck. Not in a bad way, but that just became everything that I knew. And I remember one time I was getting a job with Carrot Bear and I had to put together my resume. And I'm looking at the resume like, okay, wait, hold up. Restaurant, food, restaurant. And I'm like, okay, wait, hold up. And that's when I really kind of looked at the last couple of years of my life. I'm like, this is all you know. The food industry, the restaurant, the service, this is all you know. So of course I had to kind of make up a resume, right, to get the job. And the job didn't even last that long because it didn't keep my interest the same way. I enjoy meeting new people and dealing with different personalities and stuff like that. The parties kind of came along, funny enough. I just said I was going to try something because I felt like I knew so many people. And I used the tactic of, well, Natalie, if you have 600 tickets and you give 60 people 10 tickets, right? And tell them, don't bring it back. Don't bring it back. I'm giving you 10 tickets, sell it to whoever. But funny enough, that's how I started. And before I knew it, the first party did have the 600 people because I did break it down into 60 people or maybe 65. And I kind of broke up the tickets, and the first party had 600. And of course, you can't tell me anything after that. Right. I was like, let's try this again and again and again. And the 600 grew into 700 to 1,000 to 1,200 to 15 to 3,000. And well, yeah, you know what happens after that. So
Yes. And it continues to grow. But, I want to pedal back a little bit to your first experiences growing up. You are from Trinidad.
Yes.
What part of Trinidad?
I'm sorry. I just have to buff my child for 1 minute. 1 second. Sebastian. Okay. Yes. Sorry. My life.
Buff away in the most nice.
Yes. He knows what I mean. Yes, I'm from Trinidad. Diego Martin, to be exact, Diamondville. Yes. What do you want to know about growing up in Trinidad?
I am specifically intrigued about your upbringing because I've always seen when you posted classy, real, classic pictures of your parents.
Right.
That resonated with me wholeheartedly because I grew up in a time, of course, I was born in the 70s and in the 80s, mainly in the 80s, I grew up on St. Croix. And all the men and women that used to patronize my grandmother's establishment, she had a bar and restaurant at the time. And everyone who came in were all working professionals, but they had this air of exude of class. It was
right.
It was one that, and they always were well dressed. And when I saw your pictures when you post of your family, well, in the 70s, 60s, even, there was just something about it that kind of shapes the way how I see you portray any type of or create any type of celebration for people to partake in. And I'm wondering, how was it growing up in Trinidad? And what types of principles do you think really were instilled in you to be the way you are and present the way that you do?
I think so. My background, I come from a very educated family. From my grandfather on my dad's side, my aunt, my dad, my grandmother, my mom is corporate. Like I come from that. My mom brought me up education first, education first, education first. Um, and I guess the way how we were brought up in Trinidad, which I didn't necessarily, if you're looking back on it now, but I always tell people Trinidad is separated by, classes of, it's very cliquish, you're brought up to think in a certain way based on what school you go to or what last name you have and so forth and so forth. So I'm not going to lie, like I was kind of brought up like that, maybe not directly, maybe somewhat indirectly, but somehow, even though there's a part of me that's very grassroots. Like I want to be cool with everybody. It doesn't matter like where you're from or what your last name is or, what school you went to, and I think that part of me that I held on to when I was, for some reason, I don't know why, but that part of me, it kind of made me a people's person. I mean, not everybody sees me that way because maybe when they meet me, I'm not always smiley, but sometimes I have my reasons for that. But to my heart, I am like super grassroots. Like I want to be cool with anyone. I want to be able to have a conversation with anyone, be in any surroundings, and just kind of adapt and understand people's cultures and how they were brought up. So even though I was brought up a certain way, and it's not a bad way, it's just that you are a product. Most people are a product of their environment, right? And that's just unfortunately how it is. And I am grateful for that because I am who I am a lot because of how I was brought up by my parents and my family on the whole, or just the overall look of my family, right? But I love the grassroots side of me because I'm able to, I think, find balance. I think that's what makes me kind of mesh with this, in the industry that I'm in.
That was really profound because you're right, people are a product of their environment, and oftentimes that can go in a different direction that may adversely affect how individuals interact with people, but how they also show up in the world. And you say you come from an educated family. Exactly what did your parents do over the years as a contribution to Trinidad, and when did you move to New York and try to assimilate to the new way of living?
So I went to Bishop Anstey High, which is like one of the prestigious schools in Trinidad, right? So it was tough going in. I was telling my aunt this the other day because my grandmother went to that school, my aunt went to that school, and they were super intelligent, right? My grandfather is a West Indian author. He's a novelist. My father is a lawyer. My mother is like in the corporate world. It was tough. It was rough, right? And then like my last name, there are not very many Lammings in Trinidad. It's just one family, so you can't really hide. So I felt like when I went into school, it was like, oh, well, your grandfather is this great writer. You're supposed to know how to write. Oh, but by the way, your aunt she was great in science. So science for you. And my grandmother was an artist. She was a well-known artist. So, you're supposed to know how to draw. And I'm like, okay, wait, hold up.
All these pressures.
Right? You're not going to get me to do anything with science, biology. So forget that. Like, like that's not happening. But I did feel like I kind of had to live up to something, and I was a pretty own way kind of child. I kind of always wanted to kind of do whatever I want, but my name kind of saved me in school a little bit because I was always able to wiggle myself out of situation. But it was kind of tricky at times because I felt like people always had these expectations of even like when I came here and I did college for I think 2 semesters.
Okay.
Right. Even going into college they're like, oh, and I'm like, but how I can't hide, like, so but as I've gotten older, I kind of appreciate it now. As opposed to when I was a teenager growing up. So
And when you attended college, you attended here in New York?
Yes.
Very short-lived.
Okay, so let me tell you the college story. So I left Trinidad supposedly to come to college, right? I told my mom, I don't know what she was thinking when she was listening to me, but I told my mom I wanted to go to college. I think I had some boyfriend who was going to college, so I was like, I want to go too, right? You know what So I told my mom I chose the school. I remember it was University of District Columbia, right? I had my application. I did my application. I had my acceptance letter. I told my mom I'm coming. Looking back on it now, it's like really and truly, you're like, where were you going, right? Because it really wasn't a set plan, but she was like, all right. I guess she was indirectly saying, okay, go figure it out. So I think I probably had, I don't know, maybe 500 US my parents gave me. Needless to say, when I took the flight, I stopped in New York first.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen the doors of University of District Columbia, by the way. Never saw it. Had the application, never saw it, because really and truly, I had no idea how I was paying for this.
Oh my gosh.
So, but anyway, so years later, I decided, Natalie, you're working, you're making good money. I started doing these parties, and I'm like, did I lose sight of stuff? I came here to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the book says, right? It says after school in Trinidad, you're supposed to go to college. That's what the book said.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, I felt like, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing what I came here to do? All right, let's go to college. Let's find the cheapest college, because you know what? I got to watch my money because I'm paying on my own, right?
Right.
So I went to BMCC, right? For I think 2 semesters, right? And to be honest, 2 semesters later, I felt like, okay, wait, hold up. Are you doing what society says you're supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you doing what you think you're supposed to do? And then I said, I don't want to waste my money. I felt like I was wasting my money. So I am a college dropout, if you want to call it that per se. Like, I literally was like, I'm not taking my money and do so I never completed, shamefully, but not shamefully.
But I don't think you should be ashamed of anything.
Not
It's
really.
interesting because I was actually speaking with Fabian from Dynamite Sounds, and we had this whole discussion about trying to find a right fit for students, particularly when they're transitioning from high school and figuring out their pathway. And the reality is, people are not all built for higher education. Ultimately, yes, they can fall into it depending on the industry, the need, the want and desire for, additional knowledge, just to be cognizant of how things work from a systemic point of view. But we found that over the years that people have diminished the blue collar work. They've, particularly in Caribbean culture, we've always had to uphold this prestige, and prestige equates to education, degrees, whether or not you use it. But you have to have these things that would allow for you to show that you are accomplishing wonderful things in your life, and that would mean education. And that seemed to have held true for you. I think the connection is a bit distorted on your end.
Yes.
I think the connection is a little poor on your end, Natalie. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some connection issues on Natalie's end, but that is something as she recalibrates, that is something that we experience quite often, in general, Caribbean culture, African culture. There's this notion that, we all have to graduate from high school and go into college without really considering other career pathways. Um, let's see if she's back. Good. Kendra says college is not for everyone, and that is the absolute truth. I think Natalie is going to recalibrate and come back on. But in the interim, it's one of my positions with having to work with young people and really helping them to understand that You have to create opportunities for yourself and understand what you really want. And I know that's almost impossible to say, particularly if there are pressures from elected officials, community members, and your family, where, college is just the thing that you have to uphold in order to show success. And quite frankly, it's not. I mean, I know a lot of people who are in the music industry, they're DJing, they're, doing great things and making money without having a college degree. And, I'm not going to bash it because I have a college degree, but I also have debt. And there are other people who's probably making, 5 times more than what I am. And loving what they do without having that educational debt really lingering, with them. So it's really one that I hope that would be instituted in high schoolers, that to really find the passions that you have and materialize it, bring it to life, allow for yourselves to really, and your parents to have a clear understanding of what is reality. I mean, if the reality is that college is not the pathway, explore other things that can really help individuals succeed and enjoy life to its fullest. Natalie's back. We're good.
You know what? Did you sell or whatever? Poor service. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Did you say Digicel?
I don't know, because that's how it be acting sometimes.
Are you away?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
no, I'm so sorry, but
that was a good one. I'm like,
what I was saying was, if my son came to me and said he wanted to go down a different path, he didn't want to go to college, I would definitely explore it. One of the things I would definitely do is I would make sure that he invested his time in learning some trades, right? Because I feel, and I've said this before, growing up in Trinidad, we were taught indirectly that if someone did not move on to sixth form or something like that and they went to trade school, it meant that they were at the bottom of the barrel. That's how I foresee it. Maybe people may say that was not the intention, which it probably was not, but that's how I foresee it. Like if you said, you know what, I want to do technical drawing or a plumbing trade or whatever, it's almost like, okay, well, you're not bright enough to move forward.
Right.
And looking back on that now, like I think that was horrible, the way how that was, portrayed onto us. Mm-hmm. And if I had to do it over, like I regret not doing a home ec class. I regret not paying attention in the sewing class. There are a lot of things like, I mean, yes, I can cook, right? But I hate the fact that I can't bake to save my life. Like I have the utmost respect for all the people who I see who are into, who are open to who are doing like cake decorating and stuff like I have such a great respect for them, or anybody who has that kind of craft. And I always tell people, listen, I know a lot of people who have regular 9-to-5s, and they would always ask me, hey, I want to branch off, and do this, and what advice do you have? And I always say to people, well, one, you never know till you try. Right. But most importantly, nothing is wrong with trying something, right? Mm-hmm. But I always tell people, when you find something that you like and you want to do and you want to create a business from it, I always tell people, make sure it likes you back. Mm-hmm. Right? Because a lot of times we get into things for the wrong reason. We think, okay, this is going to make us money, so let's jump into this. Or this person is making money, so let me jump into this. Or this looks good and it looks shiny from the outside, not realizing how much work it really takes. So I could use the restaurant industry, which is a great example. Everybody thinks, oh, I want to open a restaurant, right? I want to open a restaurant. And I always tell people, before you start foot in that restaurant, make sure the restaurant business likes you back.
Yes.
Right? Or anything that you do. And when I say that, it means anything that you do, it takes a lot of work and passion behind it. It's hard work, and a lot of us sometimes kind of just jump into things casually, like I said, because of the look of it. And then when the work comes, we're ready to run. And that's why you would have people who will they always trying different things, which nothing is wrong with trying different things, but they never really give themselves a chance to kind of focus on, hey, what should I really tap my energy in? And
Mhm.
life is so short. We're not, you can't say, well, I'll wait till I'm 45
Right.
to try this, or I'll
Right.
wait till, I want, no, it's sometimes I always tell people scared money don't make money, right?
Yes. Yes.
And if your belly not good, right, then not everybody's going to be a risk taker. And like I tell people, not everybody's meant to sing. Some people are meant to write the song, or some people are just meant to do the music, and it doesn't really matter about a follower or leader. It's just that some people have different roles in life, and that differentiate from others. You know what I mean? So um, I'm seeing questions. Geez.
Yes, we have a question actually from Lourdes, and I know she patronizes your events quite often because I also vicariously live through Lourdes. When she just gets all glamorous to show up for any Natalie event.
So she's asking me if I mentor people or young people.
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna put a tap on it, like to say I mentor young people. And I hate saying mentor, because when I hear mentor, I always feel like, somebody who's better in something. I don't really look at it like that. What I would say is that anyone who comes to me and says, I want to try this, I want to do this, can you give me an opportunity? Right? I'm always open for it. Old, young, male, female, orange, green, black, white, orange. Like, I'm always open for it, because you never know what you can what strength you can get from someone, and even like with their weaknesses, what you could help them better. Or even for me, I learn a lot from people who around me. It could be somebody who just came in to help me, I don't know, just work my door or something like that. Like, and I always try to tell the people around me, like, listen, if I eat in, you have to eat too. If
Right.
I ain't eating, you ain't eating, and so forth and so forth. Because, it's not really good to have that structure where you eating and the people around you not eating. That's a street mentality that I try to engage. So if I have people who, like my people who, and I say my people, like the people who work for me or around me or help me with my events or whatever, like, none of them can come and tell me I ain't have no place to live. And you working for me and you working around me? No, that can't happen. Now, I've been told sometimes, and maybe, sometimes, some people like to work and keep a straight business, they
Right.
don't separate the two, right? They
Right.
don't separate, like, it's business and business, and the personal is personal. And yes, I do agree, because sometimes the lines could cross,
Yes.
right? But again, I am the grassrootsy kind of person, right? So I believe, like, I kind of tell myself, like, I'm a principal and the people around me are students, and your students could kind of become teachers, because your students could graduate and then they want to separate from you and learn, and you have to support them. And that's the problem with some people. They could be the principal, but when their students graduate and ready to do their own thing, they're mad. That's something we have in our Caribbean culture a lot. They're mad. But that's not how it's supposed to be. If you're my student and I teaching you everything that I know, or you grasping stuff from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be so happy when you come and you're like, yo, I want to do this. I
Yes.
want to be like, yo, what you doing? You need $10? Let's go.
Yes.
Because I rather be like, okay, you know what? I looking on like, whoo, that's a part of me. Like, not necessarily not the, because of you, because of me, I made you. Not like that, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
like that. But just kind of like, it's just a sense of pride to know, like, where this person started, and
Exactly.
so it's like I'll share. So the other day I was looking at an old show in Pulse 48. Like, it had to be like 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Lyrical on the stage. And I had to kind of screenshot it and send it to him. I'm like, look at you. I'm like, look at you. Look at your outfit. And then I'm like, damn, look at what my backstage looks like. Oh my God. Like, I mean, back then I thought it was like on point. But of course, I've graduated or whatever. But I am all for sharing information. I think one of the downfalls with us, especially women, is sharing resources. In our culture, we don't know how to share resources. Everything have to be a secret, right?
Right.
Yeah, because we come from that environment. If you're buying a house, don't tell nobody, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I'm still that way. I'm still
No,
that
and
way.
it's okay, because I do feel like you have to have a sense of privacy. That's life, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know, I personally believe inexperience because our community don't share resources, right? That's one of our downfalls because that's why we can't move forward collectively because we
Mhm.
don't share
Mhm.
resources. And when I say resources is, if you see somebody having a problem or somebody call you, it's like you don't want somebody to eat from you, right? But I mean, I have my challenges and stuff like that, but I truly, 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 truly believe my mother always say I'm a blessed child, right? And I never used to understand that, right? I thought it was just some kind of spiritual talk. You're a blessed child, But I truly starting, if not started, to believe I have been blessed. And the reason why I have been blessed is because I feel like it's the good that I do,
Mm.
that I put out there. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm not talking about the public good. I'm
Right.
talking about the
Everything that's done in private.
yeah the good that I do. I mean, I believe that's why for some reason God has always helped me to make me see my way
You know,
somehow. Somehow.
it's interesting because Karen Charles, who's also I adore Karen. She said that you were very instrumental in
That's
her
my cake
business.
girl.
Oh man, she's amazing. She does.
I would,
She.
what's so crazy, just to say, I have two cake people, right?
Uh-huh.
And it's so funny because there's so many people that make cakes. There's
Yep.
so many people that make cake. And that's like, sometimes people say that's a gift and a curse, or, you're over too loyal, or whatever the case may be. But if something's not broke, I'm good, right? So if somebody is always there for me professionally or whatever, and even if they make a mistake here or there, you know what I mean? Like, that's part of it. Because even in my business, I might make a mistake, but it's up to your patron to trust you and give you another opportunity. But sometimes I have two cake people, Karen and another girl, Darky. That's it. So some people will be like, "Can I make a cake?" And it's just kind of like, well, and sometimes I take stuff from people just because I just want to share,
Yeah.
share the jobs or whatever. But I am loyal. Like, if that's the person that works for me and they know my bad habits too, they call in last minute.
Oh boy. Karen is really forgiving. She's been baking my daughter's cake since she was born. I have to say, I've had been using her cakes every year, and it's like a staple at any of my youngest daughter's parties. So, and she's all. I just at this point, I just tell Karen this is what she likes, and then I go pick up the cake. And the cake is just like beyond my wildest imagination. So it's like to reveal it, it's one of the best
Well,
things.
funny that you say Karen, because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure how long, Karen, but it's been long enough where sometimes when the Facebook memories come up, I'd be
Yes.
like, Karen, take that cake down I made for my ex-boyfriend. Oh gosh, I don't want to see it, because that's how long she been making cakes. Like maybe two boyfriends ago, and it comes up on Facebook memory. I'm like, Karen, delete that now. So I've been using Karen for a long time.
But you have to go back to the history, and you're absolutely correct. Sharing the resources, Nikita says, wealth and knowledge is
Yeah.
indeed, she said it, you said it well, because you're right. As a community, we are very uncomfortable with sharing or helping lift other people up,
Mhm.
and it's unfortunate because we can really be eons away from where we are, but yet we still hold those values that really aren't serving us very well for progress. Lourdes says, I love that Natalie yesterday at my office at 50 Water Street, I noticed all the cleaning people were all of Spanish race. And I thought how these people look out for each other, and they have all the major contacts. The Caribbean seem to have issues with empowering each other. I
Yeah.
agree with that to some extent, although there are some who are really open, like yourself. I've encountered a number of people who's been really open to sharing and letting me know behind the scenes how to make improvements without even asking for anything in return. And I know that's of you as well, because I've seen how you've grown over time. Like I said, when I attended your first backyard event, if you will, it was at CPAC. And I walked in, I got there early, it was empty. I'm like, okay, what's going on? But by the end of the late night, and I look back because I was up front by stage, looking at Kess, waiting for my
Oh,
Kess to
that
come
one.
on stage. I went to another one before, but I can't even remember who it was. Was it Lyrical? It was some
Okay.
artist, but you always brought these artists. And, when I look back, it was like a sea of people.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, having to give 10 tickets, to 6 people, or, whomever, 60 people, whomever the amount, just so that you can build your audience. And that seemed to have been a good business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, you're transitioning from, the restaurant industry into promotion, and then really realizing what works for you best. How are you able to really determine at what point you are doing good and making the right decisions in the promotions and the restaurants that you manage to work at?
It's tough because both industries change so much. Every minute is like changing, and you got to keep up. So, like with the promoting, every year there are new promoters. Every year, the market is becoming more and more saturated. You have to keep. My thing is I have to keep people interested.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, Sebastian, keep in mind, I'm getting older, right? So if I started this 15 years ago, I'm 44 now. So some of the people who were partying me with when I, 15 years ago, they're not even trying to come outside now. So over the years, I had to like keep it fresh and fresh and fresh, which now made me say, okay, Natalie, this is not about what you want in the parties. This is not about what you want. You have to give people what they want, even if you don't really like it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to find there's a thin line between what I like, what the people want, and what I think what is best for the party. Same thing with the business. I see things one way. What does the customer want? What is the best overall look for the business? And then even these last 2 years with the pandemic, it totally threw all of us for a loop because now we got to change our entire model, right? So it has been super challenging trying to keep up and find balance. It's important. Hold on a second. 1 second, you guys go. It's important. I'm sorry, my dog. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's important. The people you have around you as well, because this is not something, being in business is not. I don't care if you're the owner, the boss. Your team is important.
Yes.
And I always try to make sure I have a solid team, and respect when they're ready to graduate and stuff. You know what? I must say, I have a soft spot for, I think it's because of where I came from. But when I first came to this country and then, I was supposed to go to college, I ended up staying here over time, no papers. I was in the country for about 11 years, no papers. Nobody knew that. The only way they were able to know that is, Natalie, you don't go in for carnival. You don't go in for carnival, right? And everybody has like a soft spot, right? My soft spot is the people who don't have their papers and trying to make it work, because sometimes they're willing to work harder and they want more than the people who have the open avenues to them. My biggest pet peeve is people who take advantage of people who don't have their paperwork.
Right.
And there's a lot of them out there in our community.
Right.
And I could never understand it, because I truly believe if somebody in your family may have not had their papers at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
And when I look at other cultures and see how they treat each other, right? So for example, the thing where they say 20 Haitians can live in an apartment until everybody graduate and they're good to go.
Right.
Right. Or even like the Jamaican culture, they're very patriotic, they're very supportive, they're for Jamaica. Even when I step out of the Caribbean and I deal with other cultures, for example, I do my New Year's event at Russo's on the Bay, right? They're Italian owned. And something I learned from them, like every time I go to a meeting with them, it's around the table and there's 15 people around the table, and it's head of the building management, head of the kitchen, head of whatever, but they go around the table and it's Mike Russo, Frank Russo, this Russo, that Russo, this one's married into the Russo. And then I look around and it's like, if it's not a Russo, it's somebody who's married into the Russo or a cousin of the Russo. And, sometimes I kind of get so sad because we don't have that. We don't have that. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a generational thing. I don't know if it's a culture that we learn. I can't really speak for all islands, but from I could only my Trini people. We're such a strong people. We
Yes.
have so much creatives, so much strength. Just
Yes.
for the Trinidadian community alone, I wish we would kind of bind together a little bit more and kind
Mhm.
of give people support. And I'm not talking about the kumbaya support, because it don't
Right.
always have to be kumbaya. It just have to be straight up support, like, this person trying to do better. And then once we could fix that, then we could kind of stem out in the different islands.
Right.
My grandfather used to have a saying. He used to say, one Caribbean, one house. And he used to say that the islands are the different rooms in the house.
Right.
And if one room broke on, the house will fall down, right? But it's true. But how can we really build a house if the room not fixed? If this room dirty, then it's like,
Oh, the room door never opens.
right, you're gonna keep that door closed because that room always dirty. So
Mhm.
um that's why I kind of love my Trini culture so much. And it's almost like I kind of want to just make it great, or for people to see us in a even better light, I should
Mhm.
say. So that's why some people say, oh, you're so Trini, and you kind of stay in a box, right? And America's bigger than that. And I get it. I get it. But I love my culture. Like, I grew up there. I went to school there. The very core important part of my life was spent in Trinidad. So I will stay in my box. However, I will try to share my culture outside of the box, with the other cultures, and trying to, share it into the diverse market. But I love my box, and
You raise a valid point, because I know that you've managed to push beyond boundaries, particularly where you host your events. So you
right.
mentioned you're on Russo's. You also did an event in Manhattan,
Mm,
somewhere in a waterfront,
yes,
which
by
is very
South Street
different.
Seaport.
Exactly. And that is very different from any other notion for, a promoter to really step outside. I'm not saying going, to Times Square and one of the, clubs or whatever. You always want to create a vibe, an experience, one that would be long lasting. And for me, I am one of those people who 15 years ago, yes, I would be at every one of your fetes. And
Right.
now it's like I kind of tempered that down,
Right.
because I wonder, is it really something that I want to involve in? But when I do go, I realize, wait a minute, she transformed things yet again. It's like
Mhm.
this constant evolution of you trying to keep up pace. And you're right with the pandemic. And I'm just curious, how were you managed to pivot in a pandemic? Because it was a time when, yes, it did cripple the industry, but
Mhm.
somehow you still managed to promote back to back events. What was your thought behind that? And when
Well,
did you think it was safe to even
so I sat
do
out
that?
the entire 2020. I sat out for two reasons. Because a lot of people didn't sit out. And like I tell people, I'm not mad at the people who didn't sit out. That's your choice, right? I said I sat out for first reason, it was not legal to do large gatherings. And for the most part, I try my best to follow the law because I have a brand to maintain. And if they say it's not legally okay to do events, I'm not going to illegally do something, right?
Right, right.
I am not, and I have to repeat it. I am not knocking anyone that chose to do something underground or whatever, because at the end of the day, whatever money you need, that's on you. Trust me, I cried for the whole of 2020, right? But it wasn't legal, one. Two, in all brutal honesty, I didn't even know what this COVID was and where it was taking us. So personally, I was just kind of uncomfortable because in 2020, that's when they were saying Governor Kuma was like 800 people died, 600 people died. That, this is what I'm hearing on the news every morning. So
Mhm.
um for my personal comfort, not knowing where it was going, right? It's like, how do I just one illegally put on an event and two go brave, right? 2021, when things started to ease up and they said that things were legal, whatever, that's when I started. And I tried to do it in the best. I try to follow all protocols. I had that challenge this year with my New Year's event because, the numbers started to go up again.
Yes.
And it was like, how are you going to maintain your party and blah, 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 blah. And I said, look, if the city says today the city shut down, the party's canceled, right? But in all fairness, it's a business that I'm running, right? And it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? Double standard. The city wants me to tell people, hey, it's safe to come to my restaurant and eat once you're vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccination don't mean anything. People still get sick vaccinated, right? The
Mm-hmm.
vaccination protects you
Right.
from getting as sick, right?
Right.
But being vaccinated doesn't really say you can't get it, right? But the city wants me to say, hey, you could come to my restaurant and eat. You have to be vaccinated. But when I have an event, right, I can actually say, you have to be vaccinated and you have to take a test, which is double protection.
Mm-hmm.
The business has to go on because it's not a matter of we don't care about, I give my patrons the option, hey, if you do test positive, show me a test and I'll give you a credit for future, right? But at the same time, how do I say I'm going to cancel a party because of COVID and then open my restaurant the next day?
Yes.
It's a tough call.
Yes. Yes.
It's either be closed and everything.
Right.
And I think after 2 years, if we don't find a way to function, it's about how safe we do it, right? So I don't knock anybody who still feels like, hey, I'm not comfortable coming out. That's on you. But I have to get up every day and go to my restaurant. The staff have to get up every day and go to the restaurant. Yes, vaccinated people are coming in, but it doesn't mean people are not carrying. How do we get to function? And to be honest, mentally, we can't live like that. We have to find a way to get back in norm. I think it's about trying to practice as much safe measures as we can,
Mm-hmm.
and being honest about it and transparent
Right.
about, so that's the best that I say. I mean, the pandemic was trying, but the pandemic was great. And I'll tell you why. Because the pandemic made me look at a lot of things that at different angles that I never would have looked at.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for example, Old Savannah on Flatbush was all about wine and jam, have a good time. Yeah, great food, great drinks. Oh, great food, but who cares if they eat because the wine and the jam's sweet, right? Okay, that was Old Savannah. New Savannah opened in the pandemic. You could only do takeout. Made me look at the business dynamic differently. Like, okay, wait, I have to package your food now?
Yes.
Wait, okay, hold on. I have to make sure this price point makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the business to do takeout, because the difference between takeout and dining is when you're dining and I could fix your problem right there.
Right.
When you take out and you call me after to tell me something, it's like, oh God, how am I fixing this? And you're already home. So it was two different dynamics. It forced me to look at food a whole lot differently, a whole more intensely.
Mm-hmm.
I have looked at food in a way I've never looked at food in all my years of looking at food. So it made me a better business person when it comes to the food part. Forget the drinks. Drinks will always sell, right?
Yes.
But just the presentation, the taste, the
Mm-hmm.
consistency, which is hard
Mm-hmm.
in the Caribbean, and because our palate is a dash of this and a dash of that, right? But
And very distinct. It has
yes,
to.
yes, that was a great part of it for me, the learning curve. The trying parts were the times like when they put indoor dining, when the numbers really started to go up. But you know what? I just stay open every day because I feel like if I close, I would miss out on one customer, because I believe one customer could bring five. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So yeah, it definitely made me think out about. I don't think I ever think so much. That's probably why I have a constant headache every day. I think the last 2 years I've never marketed think like, I mean, I was doing I was even, my partner's Grenadian, I'm like selling Grenadian oil now, like
I noticed. I
I'm doing
noticed.
everything. So yeah, so it just made me kind of think really, really out the box.
And I appreciate how you've managed to pivot. And yeah, when I saw that you were opening in the middle of the pandemic, I said, oh my gosh, she's such a brave. So again, courageously fierce Natalie, right? Figuring out, because at the time you didn't have a restaurant in place, but I was patronizing your sister's establishment,
Right,
Tilly.
please.
I am obsessed with their fish and the tamarind sauce.
The
And
snapper.
it's interesting when I see, I think his name is Wendell.
Yeah.
It's like, again, it's like the whole crew just managed to follow each other in the restaurant business. And, it's really nice to see old faces, because it gives me a sense of comfort, because I know what I'm getting is worth what I'm paying for.
Right.
And,
Right.
when you say you were blessed, I truly believe that, because although you started off with the takeouts, there was still an opportunity for you to do your back yard, have
Right.
that open up as a space for people to dine. And then I noticed that you opened up like a little cove in the front,
Yeah.
just for people to have that little vestibule
Yeah.
for eating. So what made you really think about that? And then I want to just touch on your inspiration behind your events. What really sparks you to say, okay, I'm going to have this particular thing, this theme, and really let it rock out, that people get excited, to really partake in.
Um, so as far as like the outdoor spaces, well, of course we were allowed to do different things. The city let us do different things. And the spot on Utica is not very big. I think that I found every hole, nook, cranny
Yes, you did.
to utilize in that space. I was ready to see how I can make a rooftop with no roof, right? But it worked. It worked. I did have the bus lane, the street thing. I took it down only because, and I loved it, but one of the things that I noticed that every time, the tables would be out there, I would have to send my employees every 10 minutes to clean the tables
The
because
dust.
it would be laden with, no lie, black soot.
Yes.
And one day I said to Davis, I was like, listen, if that's happening every 10 minutes, then it's happening when that it cannot be healthy. Utica is a busy street where I'm at. So then I just wasn't comfortable with it. Like, I felt like, yeah, it was giving me extra space, right? But it's just sanitary wise,
Mhm.
I just didn't like it. Like,
Yeah.
so I ended up getting rid of it and I left it alone. And the space that I have works for me. Now, as far as the parties, when the objective, there are 1,000,001 parties, right? Or events, because I hate to just label them as parties. There are 1,000,001 events. There are a lot of great promoters out there
Mhm.
with a lot of different ideas and stuff like that. So when you are coming up with something, it's like you almost have to like super, super think out the box, right? Um, when I name an event, number one, when I name an event, I always try to find something that rolls off of somebody's tongue,
Mm.
something that they will remember, not something general like dancing in white, where you're going tonight dancing, like something like if you're home, like, when you say, where you going? I always do a practice. Where you going? I'm going shush, I'm going chic, I'm going Vinnie Marget, like things that you would remember that doesn't sound, it's not like in your everyday. It could be, but you know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then whenever I decide on the name of the event or I choose a theme, the thing is the best way to execute it. I want people when they come, right? Because people like to say, like in Trinidad, they say, oh, they have the uptown crowd and the downtown crowd, right? And they say Brooklyn have an uptown and a downtown, right? um, Here's the thing. I believe crowd is crowd, right? Because everybody's spending the same money, right? So I don't think it's fair to necessarily separate the uptown and downtown, right?
Mhm.
Because I truly believe when people go out, the way how the ambience is set will depict their behavior,
Yes.
right? I
Yes.
have seen people in one party. There was a party years ago called Horn in Morning, and they created a scene outside, right? And I remember there was a clip where the people didn't get inside, and there was this one guy jumping on top somebody's car outside, jumping on top somebody's car. And then I saw this man in my party 2 weeks later. You would never think it's the same person,
Right.
right? And that kind of made me think that your environment, we are a product of our environment.
It's like, dress how you want to be
Right.
addressed.
Yes, right. So my thing is like I'm not separating nobody. It have no uptown, downtown. I am going
Mhm.
to create my environment. It's
Right.
almost like when you go by that front and everything in a house is white and glass,
Yes.
and you just sit down.
Prim prim
And you're
proper.
like, I don't want to break anything.
Right.
Something similar to that. So if I create an environment that makes you feel good, that makes you feel like, whoo, I feel like, you know what, my ticket was $60, $70, but I could see $5 in it there, and I could see a next $5 in it there. Like my goal is if you spend a ticket for $70 or $75 or $65 from me,
Yes.
when you walk in, you see where your money went.
Absolutely.
Even before you get your first drink or hear the first DJ, or even if there is an artist, I want you to see, oh, good, she spent money on those flowers, boy. They have to be okay. And people like that. They
Yeah.
like to see, you know what? I feel like I spent my money. So look, my objective is this. You may come to my party and whine down to the ground. Somebody else might come to my party and may not whine down to the ground because you have two different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
But once both parties could leave the event and say, you know what? I didn't waste my time. I didn't waste my money.
Right.
That's what it means to me. Now, you might have a percentage that say, me and like that party too stir show. I don't like that party, whatever. And they may not come back. And that's okay because you can't really please everybody. But for me, if I could get the majority feeling, it don't have to be a wine and dine, but feeling like, hey, you know what? I'm glad I came out. I'm glad I came out. I'm glad I dressed a certain way. You know, I'm glad that I did not waste my time, because there's a lot of promoters that waste people's time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm being brutally honest, you know, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot that put a lot of energy and they don't get recognition for it.
Right.
Even in smaller, you know, backyard settings, a lot of promoters, they don't have big names, but they put the same energy I put, right? And then it have some big ones who don't put any energy, but they get the crowd and
Yes.
they get the kudos because they get the crowd.
Right. Right.
But all they have is the bar and the speaker box.
Exactly.
Right.
Which also leads, you know, and I wonder, what are some of the challenges that you've experienced? Because I know venues is a big thing. And in the Caribbean culture or community, I should say, I've read and I've seen the challenges in obtaining space to host an event. And it has become even more difficult considering crime, considering the behaviors that may occur. And you're right. If you're having a classy event, people will act accordingly. But sometimes you cannot control what happens outside of your event.
Right.
Which can lead to a lot of challenges that come down the line with regard to hosting at a particular space and whatnot. So I'm wondering, how do you get through that, if there are any challenges? And if they are, exactly how do you manage to maneuver through it?
I would say there's a very small percent that yes, you cannot control what happens outside the event. Very small. And the reason why I say that is when you have an event, what goes on outside is your responsibility. So for example, if you know you have an event with 1,500, 1,800 people, you have to protect the space from outside. You have to be courteous to what's going on the outside, because how your event looks on the outside is going to depict what's going on in the inside. If the NYPD passes by and see disorder outside, that makes them want to go like, hey, what's going on there, right? If they pass and they see order, they're less likely to, you know, and you'll be surprised if you're going to have an event and you're doing it the right way. Go in and speak to the community affairs officer. Let them know. They like that, because sometimes they'll be like, tell me how I can help. But we come from a culture, and I get it. We're scared to talk to them. We think that they're against us. They're not all against us. True. Right? If you dot your I's and cross your T's to the best of your ability, there's only so much they could do. Right? You cannot ask the NYPD to support something that you're doing illegally, right? So if you're doing, put it this way, you can have an event at a private space. This is your house. You could do whatever you want in your backyard, right? That's fine. But the NYPD knows the difference between a family barbecue and an event that is selling tickets and selling liquor, right? You cannot, you know, there's laws in terms of that, in terms of selling liquor in a residential back. There's laws. So yes, they might drive by and they may not bother you. But then there are times they might drive by and they might say, shut it down. You know, you can't really ask them to support you 100% on something that really is not supposed to be, if that makes sense. Do I get challenges? Not really, because I think once I started to step up in like numbers and certain things, I just choose to do things 100%, cross my T's, dot my I's, because I don't like problems and my belly not good. So I just don't like the headache, and I don't want to have to deal with the headache. Remember, we're charging you. I'm charging you for service. So I'm not saying problems can't come up. I think once in my 15 years, I had to move because the venue had an issue and whatever. But for the most part, I try my best to make sure everything is organized. I don't hide from the NYPD. They know that I'm coming. They know what is entail, So I just don't want any problems when my patrons come, because it becomes more of a problem.
That's true. That's true.
So
And
sometimes
one bad seed can just spoil.
that's the problem. So we live in that Peter pay for Paul, Paul pay for all. And
That was a good one.
yeah,
Grandmother
but
always
it's
said
true.
that.
We do. And the unfortunate thing is, like, unfortunately, our Caribbean culture is misrepresented. So, when they think Caribbean, they think Juve, they think, all the drama that comes with it. And that is so not true.
Right.
There's so many reputable promoters doing the right thing, dotting their I's, crossing their T's, but like I said, Peter pay for all, and that's sometimes where we live in. But I think that's why I try to do what I do, because I feel like we are misrepresented. So I try my best, even in the restaurant industries. Like, I try, it's like, oh, when you go to West Indian place, the service is bad. So trying to kind of come out to that, it's hard because so many people, bad apples, pave the way. It's kind of hard to get out of it, but it doesn't mean that you can't stop trying.
Well, I have to say that you do a phenomenal job, and I can see the elevation, like, every time you manage to capture. So even like I said, I'm one of those that don't party as hard as I used to 15 years ago, but still, when you do have that one thing, it's like I have to patronize,
Right.
because I know that the feeling that I'm going to get is going to take me to a place of nostalgia. It's going to take me to a place where I feel like I belong, and you just managed to nail it. And I'm happy that you mentioned that you test out and assess exactly who you're serving to really put something into production. Because that is so important. Rather than just slapping a party together or an event, you're really careful and intentional about where you want to go and whatnot. And I wonder, what's next for you, Natalie?
Girl, sometimes I don't even know. I don't even know. I think my family's sick of me.
Why you say that?
Because I'm just kind of like, I always make the joke, like, when I met Davis, I'm like, this poor man probably picked up a box and never put it back down, right? Because, like, we're always on the go, always on the go, always on the go. And even like my son, he's getting older.
Yeah.
So, when he was younger and I had events, I could just have the sitter come over, or, it can't do that anymore, because now I have to justify, like, well, what it is you're doing? Why,
Right.
why it is you watching lyrical show 10 times? Why are you watching this? Because I'm always right. So now I take him to my events.
Right.
When I have an event, he's there. When I do chic, he's in a room downstairs waiting it out. Because, and some people may think I'm crazy. Like, when I have shush, he's backstage in a tent. People think I'm crazy. Like, he's a kid, and I'm like, yeah, but he's my kid, and I want
the future.
I want him to understand hard work. It's very easy for you to tell your child I'm working, and I don't have a 9 to 5. So when I hit him when I'm working, like, I need him to understand, like, when I say I'm working, I'm working. When we're playing hard, we're playing hard. But when I'm working, please understand that in order for us to play hard, I have to do this. So you're down or you're not down. And that, it's so funny, because when I was pregnant and I used to be in the bar at 4 a.m. and I'm coming home at 4 a.m, I used to talk to him in my stomach, and I'd be like, listen, this is it. This is our life, So he's getting older, and this year I'm gonna have him do his first event, Shush Kids.
Nice.
Right. So because he's getting older and he's starting to understand what it is. He's starting to understand what it is. So as far as what's next is, like, well, if I come, just kind of bring it. I'm opening a new store probably at the end of the year. So we'll see.
What is it going to be about?
I don't know yet.
Okay, leave us in suspense, but I'm all here for it.
But I don't know. Anything could drop out of the sky,
Okay.
I'm doing this year. I have a new event. I'm working with Nadia Batson on her show, 4th of July art form. I'm like super excited. Nice. Because it's not about me. This is an artist that I worked with for so long, and I'm like so excited. I don't know if it's like a woman power kind of thing, like N, I don't know, but I'm like super excited. So that's like definitely new on my calendar.
Okay.
So there's other things coming out. I just can't, I guess you'll see it pop up
like I said, I am here for it because you're very dramatic in that sense. You're low key, but dramatic in that
I'm
sense because
lucky. Yeah, I
I could
am
see you
pretty
like you
lucky.
would just be roaming in and out. Like every event that I see you, you're always visible. Lourdes, you're right. You're always visible, but you come in rather subtly.
Right.
You're checking to see, okay, is the food plated well? Is that
Yeah.
customer, feeling good? Do you see a smile on that person's face? Is the drink looking, to perfection?
Yeah, I'm trying to be more. I have
At
a
the
good.
events, your pineapples, are
Yeah,
they
yeah. I'm trying to.
picturesque?
I have a good team, staff. I hate even using the word staff. I have a good team, and I
Mhm.
try not to micromanage them. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be more when I have the event. And I've always been like you said, subtle. I cannot just walk around, but I'm trying to be more. I don't want to use the word sociable, but I'm trying to know my customers.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I go outside and like I'll be walking on street and somebody smile and I'll be like, Natalie, smile back because I don't know, and then they go, you see, she mean I come her party and she don't, so I'm like an idiot now. Like I go to the mall and once somebody smile, I'm like, hi, because I just don't know. And the world is so small.
Hmm.
Like the people used to listen. So I could leave Brooklyn and choose a doctor all the way in Long Island. True
Hmm.
story.
Yeah.
Right? Looking crazy, busted. I'm going to the doctor. I ain't gonna see nobody. All the way to the end of Long Island. Sit in the office and the person goes, hey Natalie, what's up? And I'm like, shh. Right? I'll be like, oh God, So, I'm trying to that's what the pandemic taught me too, because we had as a business owner, you can't hide. Can't
Hmm.
hide downstairs or behind closed doors. Like if I'm asking the employees to come outside and work during COVID, I gotta come out too. So
Hmm.
I mean, I've been taking a little break, but during the pandemic, when you came to Savannah, you see me wiping tables,
Hmm.
every that's my entire family. That's the family. That's me, that's David, Sebastian, not old enough, but I think by maybe this year we might make him wipe some tables,
He
right?
has to understand the value.
Right. So but that's it. Like if you come to the store, and because of how the climate was, like we had to get down and work,
Yeah.
so i'm trying to be I'm trying to get to know the patrons.
You do a good job. And I've learned over the years, because you always presented a serious face in the past.
Yeah.
But then as I go to your events, because I have a serious face too, so I don't even take that personal. People look at me like, it really isn't that bad. I'm like, who said that life is bad? But you're in Pence mode. And what I thought of you is always thinking, like your wheels are always turning. So you're not even paying attention to the dynamics of your face. You're really thinking in your mind what the next 10 steps are going to be so that you can be up to pace. That's what I see for
Yeah,
you.
I've never, people still do it like, why are you always so serious? Why, whatever, whatever. So, like, listen, when I have an event, right, and this is real talk, especially the large ones, when you see my face serious, it's really because I can't wait for the event to be over and for people to go home safe, right? Because as pretty with all the bells and whistles, the most important thing when you have a large crowd is safety, right?
Mhm, mhm,
I've never had it so far. Maybe I never heard of it, but my event, when it's done today, I want to wake up tomorrow and hear everybody reach home safe. I don't want to hear somebody got in an accident because they were drinking or there was a fight after or whatever.
yeah.
So when I'm in the event and I'm serious face, I'm just kind of like, okay, party over yet? Party over yet? Not because I want the fun to be done, but I just that's like one of my biggest I don't want to say like worries,
Mhm.
but I want everybody to come out, have a good time, and reach home safe. Like I don't want that negative energy, So I do, and then it's like I tell people, like, I'm not a shy cat. I'm supposed to walk around just grinning. That's not my personality, you know. That's not my personality. But if you know me, I, you
You
know,
do give a warm embrace.
I
Yes, you
will.
do.
I will, But I can't. I'm only one person.
Right. This is
I'm
true.
only
And
one
one
person.
person who's doing dynamic things for the
Yeah.
Caribbean community. I appreciate your breast cancer awareness when you've done it. All of the events that you've hosted, I have to say that I've always had a wonderful time. I've always left if I walked in with worry, I would always leave with some sort of
Good.
positive
I'm glad to
impression.
hear that.
And, truly, and, it's like, that's why I think I gravitate to your page, to your events, to commenting, because I'm just really happy to see that someone has remained authentic,
Right.
and keeping Caribbean culture alive, keeping the food as savorsome, toothsome, just beautiful. And I've always managed to see how you transition from place to place, whether it was your first gig or your
Mhm.
current establishment. You've always wanted to make sure that people are satisfied. And I truly appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
We have a question. I'm trying to remember the old Savannah. I think you had a recommendation box. Do you still have a recommendation box?
I think that she mean like a suggestion box, right?
Right. Yes.
I think I had the suggestion box because somebody suggested it.
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I hate suggestion boxes, right? Just my personal opinion. I feel like I am so open for communication. I don't
Mhm.
feel like somebody has to say something in secret, right?
Mhm.
To suggest. I actually appreciate, if somebody, it doesn't mean that everybody who said something to me, I would run with it, right? But I like the fact when people seek interest, hey, you know what, I came to your establishment and you know what, I felt XYZ way, or whatever their thoughts are, I appreciate that a lot better. And what happens with the suggestion boxes, sometimes they get crazy. Sometimes they get a little too personal. Sometimes they might be like sincerely attacking the
Mhm.
waitress or whatever. And
Mhm.
to me, if I can't see who I'm talking to, like how can I really address it, right? So I know a lot of businesses do suggestion boxes, but I prefer face to face. I kind of respect it more. If somebody calls me, sends me an email, hey Natalie, I was at the store and blah, blah, blah. I actually respect that more because then it opens communication. And then maybe I can say something to that person so they can see my point of view and they may be able to tell me back, well, hey, I understand, or hey, so I don't really personally care for the suggestion box. I just tried it back then because somebody suggested it, right? But yeah, I don't know.
Well, whatever it is, I have to tell you that you're doing a wonderful job. Thank you for keeping Caribbean culture alive. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
keeping Caribbean cuisine tasteful. Thank you for just being, a strong woman who is always looking for opportunities to bring people together in a positive way.
Thank you.
That, more importantly, it has to be why you continue to do what you do, because I can't be the only person who truly appreciates you for what you're really putting out into the world.
No, I
So
feel appreciated by many. I think that's what kind of keeps me going in the madness, because you may not touch everybody and other people might view you in a certain way, and that's okay. I think that's just all part of it. But I obviously like what I do. I love what I do, as crazy as it gets sometimes. This year it's going to be this is a long year. 20, what year are we in again? 22?
right.
It's a long year. I'm getting married this year, so it's like
Oh, congratulations.
everybody's like, "You planning your own marriage? What? What?" But this is gonna be a long year, a great year. I'm speaking greatness in the future.
Absolutely.
A learning year, trying new things. So let's see what 2022 brings.
It's going to bring wonderful things for you.
It
And
better.
you mentioned before about working with undocumented individuals, and quite honestly, I really hope to see something fabulous in your future with regards to really helping people receive some sort of assistance, or even to advocate. So I'm going to put that out in the atmosphere for
Yeah.
you. And I think I want to touch on that again, or even be involved in any way if
Mhm.
possible, as that is really something worth paying attention to, just
Yeah.
making people feel human. Natalie, today was just really phenomenal for me.
Good. I'm glad. I made the
uh,
morning exciting. It was a good morning, I hope.
It
Yeah.
definitely was a good
Okay.
morning. It is a good morning. Well, we're in the afternoon now. It was a good morning into the afternoon. I appreciate you. For everyone who's tuning in regularly to Goal Intentions, I appreciate you. I appreciate you commenting. I appreciate you showing up, being present, because it gives me life. And I can see how it gave our guests life today too, because we were responding to some questions out there. And I'm sure there were things that you had lingering if you're a patron and you've always had these thoughts. I know I wanted to know, how, why, and today you got it straight from Natalie, courageously fierce Lamming. That's my staple for you.
I think I'm gonna steal that.
You can take it.
Yeah, I think I might.
And I really appreciate your time. I know you have a business and businesses, your family and whatnot, but truly thank you for
You're
taking the
welcome.
time to spend it on Goal Intentions. And I am going to share your next promotion.
Oh, memorial. Oh gosh.
Absolutely. Everyone have a purpose-filled Saturday.
My friend, are you there with me? Chargy, bad chargy. My friend, are you there with me? Chargy, bad chargy. Hey.